If you're struggling to speak English fluently, your pronunciation is stuck and you're still making basic mistakes. I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it in this video.
The most common hurdle for any beginner isn't a complex word, it's a single letter. We're talking about the S at the end of verbs when speaking about someone else. You say, I walk, you walk, but suddenly, he walks. It feels like a tiny detail. But in the ears of a native speaker, skipping this S is one of the loudest beginner signals. It happens because your brain is trying to move fast, and adding a suffix feels like an extra speed bump you don't have time for.
Think of the S as a polite hat you put on the verb when you're talking about a third party. If you're talking about your friend John, John needs his hat. He doesn't just run. He runs. This isn't just the rule found in dusty grammar books. It's the rhythm of the language. When you miss it, the rhythm breaks, and the listener has to work a little harder to process who is doing the action.
The reason this is so hard for beginners is that many languages don't change the verb based on the person, or they change it in a way that feels more logical. In English, it feels inconsistent because I and you are singular, yet they don't get the S. Only the outsiders, he, she, and it, get the special treatment. It's an evolutionary quirk of English that we all just have to live with.
To fix this easily, stop focusing on the verb and start focusing on the subject. Before you say the action, realize you are talking about him or her. Visualize a giant letter S glowing next to their head. When you make the person the trigger for the sound, the verb follows naturally. It's about building a muscle memory connection between the person and the sound.
Another great trick is the hiss technique. Even if you aren't sure, exaggerate the S sound at the end of your verbs. It's better to overpronounce it than to leave it out entirely. Practice saying she likes, he wants. Eventually, that exaggerated hiss will shrink into a natural, crisp ending that makes you sound instantly more professional and polished.
Beginners often get stuck in a verb pileup. You want to express two actions like I want go or I like eat. In English, you can't just throw two verbs together like passengers in a crowded elevator. They need a buffer, and that buffer is usually the word to. This is known as the infinitive form, and it is the glue that keeps your sentences from falling apart.
When you say, I want to go, that acts as a bridge. It tells the listener that the first verb is your feeling wanting, and the second verb is the target, going. Without it, the sentence feels naked. It's a very common mistake because many learners translate directly from their native tongue where verbs might link differently.
However, the to trap has a sneaky cousin, the ind ending. Some verbs prefer to like hope, want, and need. Others prefer ing like enjoy or finish. You don't enjoy to swim. You enjoy swimming. This is where beginners get frustrated. It feels like there are too many rules to memorize while you are trying to have a real-time conversation.
The easiest fix is to categorize your life into needs and loves. Almost everything you need, want, or plan uses to. I need to work. I want to sleep. Almost everything you enjoy, hate, or finish uses ing. I enjoy cooking. I hate waiting. By grouping these feelings together, you don't have to remember every single verb rule. You just remember the vibe of the sentence.
Don't let the fear of picking the wrong one stop you from talking. If you say I like to dance instead of I like dancing, people will still understand you perfectly. Both are actually okay in that case. The goal is to avoid the double base verb. Never say I must to go since must is a special modal verb, but always remember that verbs usually need a little space between them.
One of the most frustrating things for a beginner is trying to ask a simple question and getting tangled in the do or does web. In many languages, you can turn a statement into a question just by raising your voice at the end. You might say, you like coffee? And while people will understand you, it isn't technically correct English. To sound like a pro, you need the auxiliary or helper verb to stand at the front of the line like a security guard.
Think of do and does as the keys that unlock the door to a question. Without them, the door stays shut and the sentence feels like a statement that got lost. Beginners often forget that does is specifically for that third-person singular we talked about in Chapter 1. If you are asking about he, she, or it, does is your only option. If it's anyone else, I, you, we, they, you stick with do.
A massive mistake beginners make is using does and then also putting an S on the main verb. For example, does he likes coffee? This is a double-up error. The rule is simple. The S can only live in one place. Once does takes the S, the main verb like stays in its base form. Think of does as the heavy lifter that carries the grammatical weight so the other verb can relax.
Why does this happen? It's because our brains are trying to process the subject and the action simultaneously. By the time you get to the verb, you've forgotten you already used does. To fix this easily, practice question pairs. Spend 5 minutes a day just saying, do you, does he, over and over. You want the connection between does and he, she to be as automatic as breathing.
Another fix is to use the statement question trick. If you find yourself stuck, say the statement first. He likes coffee, then. Mentally pull that S off the end and throw it to the front to create, does he like coffee? It's a mental visualization that helps you see the movement of the grammar. Over time, this happens in milliseconds, and you won't even have to think about it.
Finally, don't be afraid of do. It's your best friend in English. It helps you emphasize things I do like coffee, and it helps you negate things I don't like coffee. If you master do and does, you have mastered about 40% of all conversational English structures. It's the engine of the sentence, so keep it oiled and ready to go whenever you need to find out information.
Articles, those tiny words like a and the, are the salt and pepper of English. If you leave them out, the meal your sentence tastes bland and unfinished. Many beginners, especially those whose native languages don't use articles like Slavic or Asian languages, tend to skip them entirely. They might say, I have car, or I go to store. While the meaning is clear, the flow is completely disrupted.
The word a and its twin and are used for one of many. When you say I want a banana, you aren't talking about a specific famous banana, you just want any fruit from the bowl. And it's simply a phonetic tool used before vowel sounds a, e, I, o, you to prevent a glottal stop. It's much easier to say an apple than a apple, which requires you to stop your breath. It's all about keeping the air moving.
Then we have the king of specificity. Use the when both you and the listener know exactly which thing you're talking about. If I say, look at the dog, I'm pointing at a specific dog in front of us. If I say, I like dogs, I'm talking about every dog in the world. Beginners often use the when they mean all, or they use a when they should be specific. This creates a slight confusion in the listener's mind.
One easy way to fix this is the finger point rule. If you can point your finger at the specific object you are talking about, you probably need to use the if you are talking about a general idea or one item out of a million possibilities. Use a or n. It's a physical cue that helps your brain decide which tiny word to reach for before you even open your mouth to speak.
Another common struggle is knowing when to use no article at all. We don't use articles for most cities, countries, or abstract concepts like love or time. You don't say, I live in the London. You just say, I live in London. This is the zero article rule. It's tricky because there are exceptions, the USA, the UK, but generally, names of places don't need the standing in front of them.
Now, I want to hear from you. We all have that one specific word or rule that acts like a tripwire every time we speak. Tell me in the comments. Which of these 4 mistakes is the hardest for you to avoid? Is there a different annoying mistake you always seem to make?